Hi everyone, and welcome back to the National 5 RUAE series led by me, Alice, one of the English specialists at Aquinas Tuition. Today we are going to be focusing on sentence structure questions. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to understand what sentence structure actually means. It means two things. Number one, different types of sentences, and number two, how punctuation is used. Those are the two things that you can comment on when you are answering on sentence structure questions. You might be asked to comment on sentence structure directly in the exam. How does the writer use sentence structure to do whatever effect it is that they're asking you to do? Or you are allowed to comment on sentence structure in a use of language question. So you could comment on word choice, you could comment on imagery, or you could comment on different types of sentence structure. You get 1 mark for identifying the type of sentence structure correctly, plus quoting it, and 1 mark for your comment. So common types of sentence structure at National 5 are going to come up on the slide very shortly. For a more detailed list, you can head over to our website, www.aquinas.tuition.co.uk, which is on the last slide of this presentation as well, for a more detailed list of sentence structures. But I, at National 5, wouldn't be too worried about going beyond what is actually going to come up on this slide. The majority of the time, if they ask you directly to comment on sentence structure, or if there are sentence structure options in a use of language question, the ones that are coming up on this slide are probably going to be in there. So don't stress yourself, don't fret if, for instance, you're trying to learn all of these different types of sentence structures, because actually it's unlikely that they're going to give you anything too complex at National 5. So I'll go through the ones that I've listed here. First of all, perhaps the one that students like to comment on the most are short sentences. Now, short sentences are used for impact, and they often sum up a key point that the writer is trying to make. I've got a little example here. It's just something silly. There is only one cake left. You've got to have it. So this "you've got to have it," it summarizes their key point that there are only a very few cakes left, and you've got to have it. You've got to do it. So that's short sentences. Minor sentences are often confused for short sentences, but essentially minor sentences are sentences which aren't actually grammatically correct because it lacks the verb or the subject, and they're always used for emphasis or to create tension. So for instance, gutted. That's a minor sentence. Next up are lists. So lists emphasize the quantity or variety, or both, of something. The grassy lawn was filled with insects, wildflowers, various grasses, saplings, and potted plants. Lists are perhaps one of the most common things that come up actually for pupils to comment on. So if you're asked about sentence structure, have a look for a list because quite often they're there. Rhetorical questions. A question that does not expect to be answered. They're used to plant the correct idea into the reader's mind to get them to agree with the writer's attitude. Who wouldn't wish for war to be eradicated? Again, really, really nice to comment on, really easy to comment on as well. Repetition, using the same words several times, which can focus the reader on a key idea and create a specific response for them. Time after time, he lets me down. Again, really easy to detect, really easy to comment on. Inversion is maybe something that's a little bit more complicated. Inversion is when the order of words is not as you would expect. So it creates suspense by delaying crucial words to the end of the sentence, or it can give words emphasis by moving them to the start. Forward, you must pass is an example. It draws your attention to something, and it often means something that is quite important and the writer really wants you to pay attention to. Finally, triadic structure or power of 3, where you use 3 short words or phrases grouped together to create emphasis. I came, I saw, I conquered. Now, one thing that I just want you to be aware of with sentence structure is you'll see here that what I've done next to each of the different types of sentence is I've actually talked about the function. So I'm just going to put an F there, for instance. One thing to be really aware of when you're answering on sentence structure is that you have to acknowledge what the function of a sentence generally is and how that is being used within the specific question that you're being asked. I've got some examples later on, which I'll show you how to do that. But please remember to actually consider explicitly what the function of a sentence is, because that is more likely to get you a mark. Often, if you don't acknowledge what the function is, it can make your answers extremely vague. So thinking about punctuation, again, for a more detailed list, you can see our downloadable resources. A parenthesis is the first one when you insert extra information or an opinion into a sentence using a pair of dashes, commas, or brackets. Outdoor diners in England, though many considered brave due to the weather, are in fact stupid. Colons used to add emphasis to things, e.g. introducing lists, explanations. He had one goal: to win. It's about adding emphasis. Semicolons. They are slightly different from colons. You can see it's like a full stop on top and a comma on the bottom. They often connect independent clauses to enforce clarity and separate items in a complex list. The team members are Jane from London, semicolon, Tom from Paris, semicolon, and Alex from. You can see that it just helps us on the clarity front, having those semicolons in there. Dashes. You can see the dash is this little dash here. Ignore the brackets. That's just me showing you what they are, as I did with the semicolon. They are used to add emphasis, indicate abrupt breaks in thought, or add parenthetical information within a sentence. She was looking for a new job, a job she would love. And then finally, use of inverted commas, often used to mock something, display sarcasm from the writer. They considered themselves superior to the rest as they were able to travel by plane as opposed to train. Now, some of you might have picked up on the fact that inverted commas are also used for dialogue. However, in National 5, often they're not writing creatively, are they? So the use of dialogue is probably not going to be particularly common within a National 5 RUAE paper. However, sometimes they might be used to quote what somebody's saying in an interview as well. So that's another reason for them. But often, if they're just used within the content of the writing and they're not quoting somebody, it's used to mock or display sarcasm from the writer. So that's the punctuation then. So let's think about how we actually answer sentence structure questions. Method is simple. 2 bullet points. First bullet point, tell me what the sentence structure is, and then quote it. Or if it's a very long sentence, like a list, for instance, you can just reference the line numbers. Second bullet point, you've got to comment on the effect of the sentence, considering the function of the sentence. That's what I was talking about earlier. Then you need to link it to the question you are being asked. Let's have a look at an example. I came, I saw, I conquered. Explain what the writer's sentence structure suggests about the speaker. First bullet point, I'm going to mention the sentence structure technique. So I'll just put a T there, bit of a dodgy T. Triadic structure. And then I'm quoting it. I came, I saw, I conquered. You can see here that I have shortened it just because I'm thinking maybe about time pressure in the exam. I've just put a little bit of ellipsis in there. That's absolutely fine. Just don't obviously take out the important part of the sentences. I've obviously got came, saw, conquered there, so that's the key part. Now I'm going to be thinking about what the effect of the sentence structure is, considering what the function of the sentence is. The triadic structure helps to build towards a strong and decisive climax. So triadic structure, that's basically me considering what the function is. Triadic structure often helps us to make a really strong point in the sentence, which focuses our attention on the last word, conquered meaning to overpower. So I'm thinking about the function of the sentence is building us up to focus on this final word, conquered, which means to overpower. So I'm showing my knowledge there, doing a little bit of word choice analysis as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to link it to the question that I'm being asked. So the question is asking us, what does this triadic structure suggest about the speaker? Well, it suggests the speaker was determined to take control from the start and would not give up until he took over. Very clear analysis there. So the way that I want you to think about it is almost in 3 parts, even though you're doing 2 bullet points. Obviously, in the first part, you're just thinking about your technique and your quote. And then in your analysis, I want you to think function of the sentence linked to the question. Okay, follow that formula and it's unlikely that you're not going to get the marks. Let's have another look at a sentence structure question together. How does the writer use sentence structure to emphasize his dream? Worth 2 marks. So that means that you've got to comment on ×1 sentence structure. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. It's an extract from the famous Martin Luther King speech. I'm sure many of you will have heard extracts of that speech before. There are loads of pieces of sentence structure that we can comment on within this short little extract. So I'm just going to draw your attention to a few. I think the one that jumps out of me straight away is this repetition, I have a dream, throughout the speech, repeated 3 times. So I'll put repetition up there. Then at the end here, I have a dream today, short sentence, really easy to comment on. There's a little bit more repetition as well. So we've got sweltering, and sweltering really brings emphasis to how bad things are, and that emphasizes his dream to want to make things better. And then we've also got further repetition, heat of and heat of. So I'm just going to put repetition times 2. Furthermore, I think we could also maybe think about the fact that this is a very long sentence. So I'm just going to put long sentence. Now, I didn't actually put long sentence on my list that I showed you on this tutorial. That's because sometimes long sentences, when pupils comment on them, they can make it a little bit vague. Here, I think actually commenting on a long or a complex sentence would be quite good, because actually what you're thinking about in relation to long sentences, and actually I've just noticed it's long sentences times 2 because there's a full stop there, but they both are considered long sentences. So with long sentences, you want to think about how they build up tension, they build up suspense, they build up climax, or they really emphasize the writer's feelings about something, their passion about something. I think that would work quite well in this case. So those are a few that I've picked out. You might be able to find some more. That's absolutely fine. Let's have a look at what an answer would look like. So remember your formula, sentence structure plus quote or reference, comment on the effect of that sentence considering the function of the sentence, then link it to the question you're being asked. So I've gone for the thing that I found easiest. Repetition, I have a dream, suggests the urgency of Luther's desire for racial equality and how he persistently dreams of improvement. So here I've dealt with the function. Repetition can often suggest an urgency about something, and then I've linked it. So link to the question, his dreams of improvement. You can see how that's really nice, that's really concise, that's really to the point. So literally think sentence structure plus quote, then in your analysis, function and link to the question. Okay, another one to look at together. This is worth 4 marks. So I'm going to do one and then you're going to do one. It was hot. The grass was dry. Water evaporated. Animals were thirsty. Leaves fell early. Fires broke out, and it seemed never ending. When the thunder rolled, crashing about the heavens like giant's boots, lightning was not far behind. Even then, it was hours before the promised rain finally fell. How does the writer use sentence structure to emphasize the extreme weather? Again, we've got loads of different types of sentence structure and punctuation, interestingly, in this one. Pause the video for a couple of minutes and just think about how many different types of sentence structure or punctuation you could comment on within this short extract. So you might have a few listed down. I'll just go over a few. So first of all, the colon there introduces, obviously, so I'm just going to put the colon, introduces this very, very long list. So I'm just going to do it all the way down to there. Actually, I'll put a little bracket around it. So obviously the colon is drawing attention to the list, which obviously highlights the extreme weather. The list obviously emphasizes the variety of things that were extreme about the weather and the effects of them. We've got parentheses here with these 2 dashes, crashed about the heavens like giant boots. Potentially, also, you could comment on the semicolons, which emphasize the multiple things that are wrong with the weather as well. That could be one to comment on. I think those are some good ones. Again, you might have some more. That's absolutely fine. You can always comment and see if they would work in relation to this question. One of us can come back to you. My answer example is list, it was hot, the grass was dry, fires broke out, emphasizes the variety of things affected by the extreme heat. Not only were livestock suffering, but the natural landscape was in dire straits too. Okay, pause this video and have a go at another type of sentence structure. Here's an example. Parenthesis, crashing about the heavens like giants' boots, adds further information to highlight the extent of the overwhelming weather experienced at this time. Thunder is threatening form of weather, so this extra information provides us with a clear understanding of how extreme the weather was. Again, in both of these, I've thought about the function of the sentence, and then I've linked it to the question. Again, function, and then link to the question. Hopefully that is starting to make sense. So guys, that is the end of our National 5 RUAE sentence structure tutorial. Hopefully that was helpful. If you would like some further practice on sentence structure, then you can head over to our website and go to our resources page. You will find there that each video that we have been posting has a linked downloadable resource. So for instance, word choice has word choice questions plus a mark scheme, sentence structure has sentence structure questions plus a mark scheme. Those are free to download. Please do use them if you find them helpful. If you would like some tutoring, do email us at our email address underlined just here. You can also comment if you've got any questions. You can email us if you've got any questions. That's absolutely fine. We are here to help. Hopefully you have a lovely week, and next week we are going to be doing link questions. Bye everyone.